we have a very interesting topic of the day. Now, the topic of today comes to us from somebody who actually follows Tiger. I know somebody follows Tiger. What the hell?
Keep it up, buddy. Keep it up.
So, Tiger, why don't you explain to them a little bit about the email that you received from one of the nurse stacking people that follow you?
This was a nurse that I worked with in the last hospital, not my current hospital. She is a very smart lady, and normally as an ER doctor, you're not included in the inner circle. This nurse and her buddy included me as a friend in their inner circle. And this nurse in particularly was the first of many nurses that saved my life about a year ago when I had sepsis. So I have labeled her as RN Stacker. Her question to me is, what's your opinion on precious gemstones?
Yeah, so her question was, hey, what about stacking gems? That's basically what it boils down to. So let's start off by talking about what we do, right? Stacking, collecting, numismatics. What is the premise for that? So, Tiger, why do we stack? You just talked about the nurse, your personal SHTF. Why don't you talk to people about why you stack?
Well, I stack because for me, it was an issue about preserving wealth, and that my attempts with stock markets and then later crypto, I had losses, usually more in the stock market. And then I started waking up about precious metals because of some of the lessons that was taught to me by my grandfather while I was still young, and then went from there. And then I got into buying from online and from my local pawn shop, but then I found other places where I could buy smarter. And currently, I'm now, because of spot prices going up for both metals, I'm at a 44% gain as to when you average them all out. So for me, it was about preserving the wealth for an upcoming SHTF. And then I hit sepsis plus or minus a year ago and had no income for about 2 months, of which I sold my silver to make ends meet. I call that a personal SHTF. And then it was something that I learned, is was a good choice. Now, for me, because of the volatility of silver, if I sold my silver, I had a potential chance to buy it back plus or minus about the same price that I sold it for, and that frequently did happen. So I would rather sell silver in today's market with the volatility of silver than well about gold, because you might not ever see those prices again. So that's how I got into precious metals about 4 years ago, and now I've seen the advantage of it with what I've lived through. So that would be why I got into precious metals. Never was much into gemstones, didn't think much about them. I understood the entrance and the exit strategies for metals. Outside of buying gemstones, which is the entrance, I didn't know where an exit strategy was, nor was I really that interested. So that's when you and I talked about, and you told me that you were into gemstones, of which everyone can see on the screen that you are. And at this point, I think I'm going to let you take over.
So yeah, I definitely enjoy gemstones, and this is something that I collected many, many years ago. Pretty much when I found out that a good friend of mine actually owned a jewelry business. 9 for 9 just gifted 5 memberships. The Winston Double Outstanding, Tom Brudos, Ant Marching, Lisa Anderson, and Charles Latre. Please say thank you very much to 949 for that gifted membership. That's awesome. Thanks so much. What's up, Otis? Hope you're doing well. Thank you all for coming in. So, I collected gemstones prior to my daughter being born. And again, we're talking 20, 25 years or so ago. And when I first got into collecting gemstones, it was kind of like stacking for me, because I was able to get some items that I wanted to and spend some money knowing that that money would be held in something that I could eventually sell it back for. And I got away from that strategy for a number of years. And you can see I have a number of gemstones here. This isn't everything that I have. It's just an example. And I have the silver bar there. It's a 5-ounce silver bar to give you kind of a scope and a size relation to how big they are. There's everything from an eighth of a carat all the way up to, I think it's 4.5 carats. depending upon the stone and the makeup. So can you utilize gemstones as part of your investment or hedging? Absolutely. You absolutely can. And there's a couple of things that you have to look at. Gemstones are a tangible asset class, and they're something that you can use to diversify your portfolio. And so if that's what your goal is, absolutely you can utilize gemstones. So let's talk a little bit about that. I pulled up some numbers. So again, I'm not a gemologist. Some of these numbers may be off. It's the best that I can give you. The general market for gemstones from 2000 to 2024 was an increase between 28.7 billion and 42.5 billion. Now they're projecting the same rate of growth, about 3.6 to as high as 6%. Okay, that sounds pretty good. If you're playing the stock market and you're looking for that, your investment portfolio person might say something like, you want to aim for 5 to 8%. Okay, well, based off of the market that I found between that time frame, it's a little under where your higher numbers are, but you're sitting right around that 5%. So from an industry standpoint, you're not doing too bad. Now, if you're comparing this to maybe personal growth inside a Roth IRA or an IRA account or something like that, your 401k, or maybe you got 11.5% because the market's been really good for the stock the last 7 or 8 years, maybe your rate of return isn't as high. So is it the only thing that you should invest in or only thing you should collect in? No. Again, for it to be a part of your asset class or to be a part of your diversification, it's fine, not a problem. But just like with stacking, that's not the only thing you want to do. Just like with collecting coins, it's not the only thing that you want to do. I'll explain. So JR and Kim are like, I won't do this because you have to worry about things like your exit strategy. I'll explain something that's very important with exit strategy here in just a minute. One of the things that Kim mentioned in chat was that you have to worry about lab created. Okay, well, guess what? We have to worry about counterfeits in this hobby. Oh, guess what? We have to worry about counterfeit gold, counterfeit silver. They have tungsten that they use in place of gold. They use copper in place of silver. They might use steel. So what's the difference there? The difference is that the lab created stones are virtually impossible to tell unless you have the right machines. What does that mean? It means you have to do the same damn thing you do when you do coins or you do silver and gold. You have to have a trusted source and you have to test it and test frequently. The strategy is no different than stacking or collecting gold, silver, numismatics, semi-numismatics, or exonumia. It isn't any different. The strategies remain the same. Number one, know about them. Know what they are. Know where they come from. Get engaged in the community. Surround yourself with people who are knowledgeable about the item, right? I mean, does that sound familiar? Because that's everything that I preach.
That's what I did with gemstones. I'm like, how in the world do I answer this question I know nothing about? And that's when I found out you know about gemstones. So it became a really perfect topic for Stack Collector. I didn't know. I asked. Frosty might know someone. I didn't know that someone was himself, and that we could tell RN Stacker, what is good information about gemstones. I didn't know. Went to someone who did. So with whatever you are wanting answers for that you can't find yourself, speak up. You may accidentally be talking to an expert.
Yeah, and again, folks, it doesn't matter. Now, I understand why people are concerned about it. There's a lot of negative hype towards lab-created gems, and if you're not careful, just like with counterfeit Carson City, it doesn't matter if it's a gold piece or if it's silver. It doesn't matter if it's an Engelhard bar or Pamp Swiss, right? Maybe it's Geiger. There are fake bars everywhere. Doesn't matter. So in anything that you collect, anything that you do that revolves around spending money to maintain or possess an asset for either wealth or diversification, you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to have a strategy. That's collecting money 101. Period. End of story. So it's really easy to poo-poo things that people don't understand, or, oh my God, there's so many problems with it. Well, guess what? That's how a lot of people look at counterfeit coins and numismatics. Why in the hell would you want to stack something? We had Coach Magic come in and ask the question one day, Why in the hell would people want to collect and be in a hobby where there's so much fake stuff out there? And it's like, because there's some really cool stuff out there too. And so when you get engaged in whatever hobby it is, doesn't matter what it is, make sure that you have a good strategy. Make sure you're looking at the right investment people. In the case of gemology, the one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure you have a place to store them, secure them. Why? Because they are one of the most concentrated portable wealth offerings ever. I'll give you an example. This little itty bitty thing right here is over $2,500. That thing. That right there. Why is that? Anybody want to take a guess on what kind of stone this is? I'll give you a clue.
It's rare and sought after.
It changes color too in natural light against the bottom one. It's one of the few natural change colors. Okay. Very expensive. And how much does this weigh? This is 1/3 of a carat. $2,000. 1/3 of a carat. Okay. It does start with an A. Neil's a smart cookie. Yeah. And that's exactly why. Right. And so when you look at it, you go, well, that's nothing major. But there's massive value in some of those things. How about this one? This is a really cool stone. This is courtesies of my grandfather. It's actually a matched pair. One of the few things that I got from him years and years and years ago. In the last 25 years, those have been up about 3,000%. Those are Podparasha sapphires. And in this deep orange color, they're very, very collectible. When he bought them to the time that I got them now, they've probably gone up 15,000%.
Grade 8 says andrite.
Alexandrite. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what Neil was saying. Does it start with an A? Yeah, Alexandrite. It's an amazing stone. Color change. And it's one of those things where it doesn't look like much, but they're very, very, very collectible. They're very sought after. Now, this is way smaller than 1/3 of an ounce of gold. And actually carries more significant metal, right? So where did I find the tray with the holder? Oh, you can actually go to any gem shop and you can order gem holders and they will come in 5, 20, 50, 100, whatever. But yeah, Alexandrite's amazing. And so the people who understand that, Neil's like, I have 12. I thought he said 12 karat. I was like, holy smokes. But yeah, you can find these things all over the place. Right now, I want to go back to something that Kim said. Now, there is a stone up here and you can see it. Can you see it? There is a stone there that you can see. Pay attention. Pay attention. There's only 2 stones that came into the screen that I was very, very, very sad about, to find out that these were actually, in fact, lab created. I didn't spend way too much money on them. But I did spend enough that when I found out that they were lab created, they're cabochons and they're rubies. And the cabochon is it's not faceted, it's not cut, but they're blood ruby. They're so deep and absolutely fabulous. And you look through them, and they were inclusion free, and I just had no idea. Well, and for this particular pair that was going to go into earrings, I probably spent twice as much as I should have. Well, where's the problem? Is it because I bought it from somebody who ripped me off, or was it because I didn't do the research ahead of time and actually find out what it was I should have been doing when I was trying to buy that coin or that gemstone? It's on me. Buyer beware, right? I didn't do the research. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't ask to see it in one of the machines that they have now. And when I went to get them fitted, the guy was like, well, I can get you a real set. You don't have to use these lab ones. And I was like, lab? And he's like, oh, sorry about that. So you do have to worry about it being counterfeit, and because they are an extremely concentrated store of wealth. The other thing is we talk about the hedge against market volatility. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. There are certain classifications of stones, like the barrels. The barrels in the last few years have kind of fallen off. Now there are other types of barrels that are higher because they're rarity and stuff, but they ebb and flow, just like everything. There's some collectible silver that people paid up for, and now it's barely worth over spot. It happens. And this happens wherever you're at. So you have to worry about things like the appreciation and what's your return on this. They're always going to be there. But like I said, when you're talking about 2003 up to 2023, the rate of return on most gemstones related to rubies, sapphires. Now I'm talking about quality stuff. Quality stuff. Rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and diamonds, both white and colored, is anywhere between 10 and 28% appreciation. So there's definitely been a massive increase in the amount of money that these things are worth. So again, you have to concern yourself with those things and find out what's going on and what historically has been really good, solid, stable. And your cut and your quality matter. Now, I'll show you something really cool. Most of these I bought. I don't know if you can see this, but these stones right here, they all run in a line, all look exactly the same. And that's because I actually found the crystal form of that, and it's amethyst and citrine. They call it ametrine. And it was about a 3.5 inch to 4 inch crystalline piece. And I had a good buddy of mine while I was going to college, and I told him that you're looking at learning at cutting and doing stuff like that. Why don't I give you this piece and you can cut me diamond cuts? And he was practicing. So there were supposed to be 12. I ended up with 10. And so they turned out really nice. But one thing that's really cool about these particular items is that as you put them side by side, you can actually see the vein in it kind of shift to one side. That was just a cool thing. I just happened to find it. We were out looking at stuff and I come across it. Citrine, did I say something else? Yeah, I have citrine up there too. That's my citrine right there. But so yeah, but I do like them. And there's a lot of good things that you can do when it comes to having gemstones. Now, there are some issues that you have to do, okay? Something called opacity or liquidity risk. If you're not engaged in that hobby, if you're not engaged in the communities, you're not talking to gemologists, you're not talking about certification, you don't understand the difference between the grades and inclusions and oh, he's talking about all the stuff that I have on my screen. I got you. He's naming all the various gemstones that I have up there. I was like, what are you doing? I get it now. I'm tracking, Neil. You do have to worry about things like, liquidity. But if you are in a good community like the one that we have here, I know that if I need to sell silver and gold, I know a number of people that I can go to. Boom, boom, boom. I also know that if I have numismatics that I need to off or get rid of, or if I'm looking to buy, I know exactly who I'm going to go to identify and check prices and then eventually buy or sell to somebody. Because I'm in the community. I've engaged myself in that community. I've worked on my strategy. Part of that strategy is the exit strategy. So you have to make sure you have that. In this particular case, a buddy of mine who owned Williams Jewelers in Utah years ago, resold the shop, left, took off, went to California, still engaged, knows tons and tons and tons of gemologists. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to be doing a little thing on this. We had a question. How hard is it to off the gemstones that I have? And he has a good idea of what I have over the years. And he says, I could turn them around for you in about 6 days. So if you have the connections and you can work with people to learn those things, you can find that. Now, would that 6 days be a little bit tougher in an SHTF situation? Yes, but you know what? He's the guy that's going to be able to get it for you, or he knows the people who'll be able to do that. So important to make sure you understand your liquidity risks. Make sure you have a very open environment. You know who's where and what who's doing what, and etc. Let's shift to the other area of concern that was there, right? Lab, fraud, misrepresentation, misinformation, disinformation. Oh my God, folks, have you guys watched my channel at all? Right? We talk about counterfeits and misinformation, disinformation all the time. Go back and look at any of my shorts. It doesn't matter what you're in. Buying a car, buying a house, buying a property, going to see a doctor, going to a hospital, telling that you're going to be doing something, looking for insurance. There's going to be mis or disinformation everywhere. You have to look past the crap, dig in and find the crux of it. So you're going to find that wherever. It's no different than any other hobby you're going to get into or anything else you're going to spend your money on. Buyer beware. Make sure you understand the moral, the ethical concerns of that. Make sure you understand what's real. Make sure you understand what's not. Be educated about it. And if you're not, find people in the community way smarter than me to teach you about gemology, to teach you about tracking and doing stuff like this. I have had people in my life who've given me this, but I don't buy very often anymore because this is no longer my focus. This is a store of wealth. And yes, I can upgrade a couple pieces here and there. Or if I have a friend who's getting married and they say, hey, there's this orange citrine that I want, and trying to find it, man, I can't find that thing for under $6,000. It's like, hey, well, if you go a little bit smaller, I have an orange citrine, I'll sell it to you for $3,000. I paid $1,800 for it. Got it. Done. Right? But yeah, Neil is exactly right. You got to worry about heat treated, chemical treated. This is what's so dangerous about those coins. Those coins, God almighty. Gemstones. This is tanzanite. This is non-heat treated. You can tell because it's not purple. It doesn't, and the purple usually is real deep purple, almost amethyst color, almost this kind of color. Okay, it's almost purplish. It's not that really deep royal blue that you want. I've bought tanzanite that was heat treated, and I was very, very upset when I found out that it was heat treated. So you have to do your research, and you have to make sure you understand what it is that you look at. Yeah, and I've got some really nice, pretty colors, deep, good looking amethyst. My high grade amethyst, like deep color purple. And then I have everything from onyx. This is a really cool one. Neil, you're going to have to help me with the name of this. I can never remember the name of this thing. It is electric green. And the thing is, it doesn't show up on any camera ever. It just looks black. Man, when you look at this, it's so freaking green. And I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to remember. So yeah, there's a lot of amazing things that you can find here. Let's get back to the discussion though. So how do you set yourself up for success? So this is something. It's not amethyst. It's like it's called. I think it's a green beryl. But it's not emerald. It's not, oh my God, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, no, I don't think it's tourmaline. I'll find it. Anyway, it's absolutely phenomenal. That's an expensive stone too.
You know what you need to do with that stack there, the gemstone stack? You need a label maker. Put it on the sides or on the back so you don't forget.
But part of the fun of looking at them is remembering what the hell it is.
Yeah, but you could have a cheat on the back, so if you forgot, you could refresh your memory quickly.
OC Stacker says that Space Miner is really good with this topic. We have a number of people are. Kevin Rose is very good. No, tanzanite is purple, not green. No, it's not peridot. Peridot is this. That's August. I will remember, but it's almost chemical green. It's the weirdest color, but I'll remember. Again, I think it's part of the beryl family, but I'll find out in just a minute. So what I wanted to do is I reached out and I said, hey, if I was to ask a question or if I were to be asked a question and I were to, hold on just a sec. Let me just get the email and I'll just read you the damn thing. We had a question come across. If I were to answer this with a very simple subjective frame of reference, what would you use? And they said, oh, the 4 C's: carat, color, clarity, and cut. These are the items. And so he explained this. Carat weight. So carat weight measures the stone's weight. This is not 14 carats put on a burlap string, okay? That's not what they mean by 14 carat necklace. Guys, pay attention. Your wife doesn't want a bag of carrots around her neck. Okay, so when we're talking about that, again, it's not necessarily its size. You can have a half a carat that looks bigger than a full carat stone, okay? But the things that matter is, cut and depth and things like that. They all play into that. But the big one is carat weight. The larger stones are more rare. So anything that get above 1/5 a gram, you can start actually, becoming equivalent prices. And then again, as you go up, you'll see the rarity increase and you get into the really big stones, Hope Diamond, that kind of stuff, where they just become basically priceless. Color is something that's often overlooked. A lot of people hear things like I2 and they're like, no, it has nothing to do with Apple, right? It's not an I anything. I2 is included, and then there's grades and scales. Familiarize yourself with the grading curve. Understand what it is, just like you would understand MS63, MS64, BU, AU. You have different color scales. Make sure you understand what the skills are for your clarity. You're also going to want to look at that color. And color becomes one of the biggest issues, and Neil hit on this just a moment ago. Color, you have to worry about being heat treated. Now, there are certain things that you can do to detect heat treating. There are machines that will actually turn your thing blue versus green versus orange, depending upon how much alteration has been done to it. I don't know the science behind it. I can't tell you how it works. If you want to know more about it, let us know, and we can get people who can actually show you that stuff. I like watching, who's the New York gold stacker dude who has the jewelry business, paired with Mr. Beast. See you later, bad idea. Thanks for coming in.
The only New Yorker I know is Big Apple, but I don't think he...
No. This guy is... God, I can see him. He's always hiding gold in the streets of New York, always talking about this. New York stacks. There you go. Yeah, tracks stack. He tracks New York. There you go. Great Scott and OC got it. He's always talking about that. And he's actually shown a couple videos where they actually show you the lab quality, and they'll take you into different gem shops. And you want to talk about building a relationship. That's a good place to build a relationship. What's up, Stuart? Good to see you. What's up, THS? The last one is, again, we have different ones here. Air, trillion, oval. I love the trillion cut. This is one of my favorite stones. It's not worth a ton of money, but man, you take that inside, it looks kind of a pinkish color. You take that outside and that turns into the most beautiful green. Absolutely phenomenal. But cut matters. And because people have different ideas and different styles and different belief methods for, what's a good stone, what makes a good cut. And then of course, when you're talking about the emerald, you're talking about the emerald cut, not necessarily the stone, because the stone emerald can be cut into a bunch of different ideas or a bunch of different methods. So again, when you're looking at the 4 C's, carat weight obviously is the easiest one to determine. Color is the second most, then the quality of the clarity, and then you want to look at the cut. So when you have all of those items in a gemstone, you have a good piece. And so these are the things that you want to walk out of a jewelry store or from a gem shop or whatever, making sure you fully understand those 4 elements, and then you'll be good to go. The last part, which is something that happens with ancient coins. How many of you, so you're doing pretty good. You're naming most of the stones that I have, Neil. Clearly somebody who follows those. Who knows the word provenance? What does provenance mean, Tiger?
I don't hear that word that often. I remember hearing it in older movies.
Do we have anybody who collects ancient Egyptian artifacts or ancient Chinese artifacts, or maybe, I don't know, Greek or Roman coins?
Long Live Coins does, but I don't think I've seen them in the chat.
So provenance means this is the documented history, the geographic origin of the gemstone. So Great Scott says origin, that's right. But it's also the history of the stone, where it's gone from, whether it's Burmese, whether it's Muzo, whether it's Colombian emeralds, and we're talking about the Muzo, if you're talking about the Burmese, rubies. Again, whatever it is, in Tanzanite, it was D9 or D4. I think it was D4, which was the great big vault, the final place that ran out. That's where all the really, really beautiful Tanzanites were coming from, was that D block, right? Now I think they're mining C and B, and the farther you get away from that geological activity, the lighter the color stones are. So they just don't have the same volume. But what's important to that is knowing the provenance. And if you have a piece that has provenance, whether it's a fine art piece, whether it's a brooch or jewelry or something like that, it's always better to keep it with that piece, because the history of that is extremely important. Now, Tiger and I were talking about jewelry and what happens inside of a pawn shop or something like that. And he was like, well, I just see him pop the stones out and throw them in a little bin. So why would they do that? Well, because they're hoping that those stones are real. They're going to take them, they're going to get them tested, and you might have bought something for $100 that's worth a few thousand. So they pop those out to safeguard them, not to throw them away. And so there are reasons why people will do that. And again, if you take that stuff in, you don't know those 4 C's, you could be throwing a ton of money away. So you just make sure that's going to also help you not be fooled by things like costume jewelry and stuff like that. The last thing, the most frustrating of them all, are things that are treated. And again, heat treated is one of those things where, unfortunately, if the color is too good to be true and you're not paying tens of thousands of dollars, it's probably either lab created or heat treated. You can buy some beautiful pieces with lab and heat treated stuff, but it's just not desirable. So make sure you're tracking those things. Make sure you're asking those questions. And above all else, don't take the advice from me. Get engaged in the community that's doing it. If you want me to help, I can find some people. I've already pulled up a couple places that are reputable. If you guys want to know more about that, we can do so. We have a number of people in the chat that are knowledgeable. Neil Hahn, Space Miner. We have Kevin Rose, who's extremely knowledgeable with this stuff as well. There are already people engaged in this aspect in our community. So reach out to them. And as always, if you don't know how to reach out to somebody, reach out to Tiger and myself, and we will pull the information together and we will make sure that we get that to you, because that's an extremely big portion of what it is that we do. We're here to help and safeguard and protect and provide information to the community. That's our mission. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you want to know more, I can show you some comparative analysis against like real estate, gemstones, precious metals, and fine art about why some are better. Like it's better to collect gemstones than it is fine art. But yeah, there's a lot of information. So if you want to know more, you want to do a little bit deeper dive into this, then we can do so. And hopefully the person who asked Tiger the question is watching or will watch this video and will be able to make a better informed decision on whether or not you can or in fact should stack or collect gemstones. So Tiger, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. You hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. Are there any questions that we can pull up information? I am in the process right now of trying to figure out what the hell this green stone is called, because I can't for the life of me remember.
That's why I label everything, because I'm afraid of forgetting too. I would have put some sort of sticker on the back of those or around the sides of those. That's just kind of me for fear of forgetting. I wouldn't know. I mean, gemstones was something I never paid much attention to. You know, the wife wanted it, I bought it. That's all I knew about it. Same thing with osmium. She went, yeah, so I bought it. Now, traditional stacking, hey, I'm there for you, buddy.
Well, and what's really important is that ask the question. If we don't know, we'll find people who do. It just so happened that when Tiger asked me, I was like, oh, do you want to see mine? Look at my collection. I got some fun stuff here. And I made a special trip and I went and picked them up today. And I sat here. And again, so, you know, we were talking about, I got somebody who likes opals. And it's like, well, those aren't very nice. Well, I used to give these away as education. We would go to places where kids were hanging out and they were learning about different things. And I would take, you know, some of these pieces, oops, I just opened that. That was not good. And I would take and talk about the differences in, you know, color, and, you know, just because they have color doesn't make them valuable. Opals are plenty. They're really neat. But when you're looking at a good opal, you want that color. You want them to shine and jump out at you. And I don't have a ton of really nice opal. I have a few, but not a lot of it. And so I just think they're cool. Now, opal, when you get the really high quality stuff, they can get pretty expensive. And so, again, make sure you're doing your due diligence. But I'll tell you what, man, you see some of those fire opals, man, beautiful stuff. But, you know, again, to each their own. You collect what you want to collect. Just make sure it fits within your portfolio and make sure it fits within your strategy. Folks, if I can say anything else to you, if there's one piece that I could give you that would really kind of benefit you, other than act, don't react, act. That's kind of my number one vote of advice. The other one is, if you are not frequently revisiting your plan, you're going to screw it up. What do I mean by screw it up? Doesn't mean that you won't reach it. You might reach your goal, but you might not get to where you could be because you weren't reinvesting yourself. You weren't paying attention to it. You weren't digging into the things that needed to be done. You weren't identifying changes in the market trends. that would have helped you maybe identify when to buy or when to get rid of something. Constantly look at your positions, whether it be in your money market, whether it be in your retirement, whether it be in your stacking, collecting, whatever it is. Understand what your money is doing for you and revisit it. But remember, it's almost always the best position to go for long term. Almost always. It's okay to flip, but it's almost always best to go long term.
Makes sense. I do that a lot with my, well, you see me do it. You see me do things as simple as labeling everything I bought all the way up to running my spreadsheet. And that's how come I'm pretty knowledgeable of my stack. Not because I go in and look at it, which I don't, because I, like you, have it spread to a few different places. But where it is all collected is on my spreadsheet. And even though I'm human and I'm sure that I've made a few errors along the way and it might not be 100% accurate, I've got a pretty darn good idea of what I got. So know what you got, know where you're headed. You'll probably, no matter what you're stacking, you'll probably change your opinion as time goes on. It's like I was straight stacking until I got bored buying the same thing over and over again. Then I slid into collecting. Now not so much interested in collecting ever since a year ago when I had the SHTF. I've become more and more of a stacker again. And the collector in me and the stacker in me sometimes have a war beside my head. But for me, it's all about what can I leave my wife and how can I get her to not get taken advantage of. So that's a big component for me and why it's made me move harder towards boring stacking. And boring because it's, it's not pretty enough, but important because when God calls me home, she doesn't have the knowledge I have. I want her to have something that's not going to leave her sit out in the dust. Now, I can probably venture forth and make a good solid guess and have a good chance of being right. If she saw that stack right there of those gemstones, she's going to be on me to start collecting those too because they're shiny, they're pretty. The girly thing in her.
Well, but again, we have, I mean, even in this hobby, we have people that collect the shiny, pretty stuff, right? And you have to collect, if you're doing it to collect what you want. But the important thing is, the question here is, do you invest in them? If you're going to look at this as an investment, yeah, it needs to be something that you're going to enjoy. Remember, ultimately, this is a hobby first, but if you're utilizing it for wealth preservation, you need to stop looking at whether or not it's pretty, and you need to see, does it meet the functional requirements? Does it have what I need? It's the same thing when we're looking at coins and we're grading coins, right? Does it have the grade that I want? Does it have the items? What am I looking at? Does it meet the criteria? Is it genuine? Have I verified with information to actually look at some of these items? And if the answer is yes, and you're good with that, you're comfortable, make that investment. But again, you have to ask your question. Investing because it's pretty is a bad idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why there's so many divorces.
That's why you have to have what are you more willing to part with? For instance, your Engelhart bar, I will part with that faster than I will ever part with a Nikolai Tesla. That'll be up on the chopping block if I have another SHTF. The Tesla coins will be amongst the last. Would I part with them? If I had to pay bills and that's all I had left, yeah, they're going. T-Bird
Stacking, member for 8 months. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you. Chad Brockman, Frosty, my brother's friend, had the rights on a Himalayan tourmaline mine in San Diego between 94 and 99. I've had several specimens faceted by David Burton of the Burton Gems and Opals. That is cool. Yeah, see, and again, I got in because I just happened to know somebody who owned a jewelry shop. And so they would teach me, and I would, spend $100 and they would give me a smart parcel. And we would look at it. We would figure out what was what. And he would, try to help me understand the cuts and what I was looking for. And so, again, if you have somebody that can pour into you and nurture you, unfortunately, I don't have the skill set to really dig in. I mean, I can do the research that I do, no problem. But there are other people in the community that are really engaged. And if this is something you want to learn more about, ask us more questions. And we can make sure that we include this stuff on a regular scheduling cycle, because I'm about different collectibles. Again, we're called Stack Collector, right? Not only are we here to talk about the truth and reality of things, but anything that is stacking a worthy and investment. How do you safeguard yourself and protect yourself from situations? That's what we're here for, folks. So we appreciate you being here. Tiger, I've pretty much said all I want to say today. You have anything you want to wrap up on?
No, I thought it was a pretty good educational experience. I hope RN Stacker does come to your channel. I sent her an email, and if she does, I hope she gets the information that she was searching for with her question. For me, it's been just straight education. I've been a sponge. I didn't know all this out there, and certainly it's a component that I never thought about. And I have to admit, I'm impressed with the dollar figures you've been throwing out there. It's like, okay, I guess RN Stacker has some validity to what she likes. Plus, this pretty stuff.
See you later, Nick. You guys, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us. Maybe, Tiger, maybe you and I need to talk. Maybe we can bring people on like Space Miner. Maybe we can bring on Kevin Rose. Maybe we can bring on Neil, and we can talk about, have them show some stones, talk about general prices, and kind of break down some areas where people can look for more information if they're interested in that. Would you guys like that?
I think I would, and I think I might actually get my wife's attention. In fact, she just walked in the room.
I was about to say, was that just her that chuckled in the background?
Yeah, that was her. Take a look at what's on here, please. We were about ready to finish the live stream. We're talking about the value of precious stones, gemstones, and you like things that sparkle. So we might do another live stream in the future about gemstones. Think you might be willing to stay with me long enough to watch something like that?
Yeah, I like the gemstones.
Things that sparkle.
Yeah. Girls love diamonds.
No, that's not just all diamonds. There's opals and amethyst and other stuff.
Like some, for example, rubies can cost even more than diamonds.
Well, he has one itty bitty little tiny piece that's probably worth all the other stones in there.
Hey, that's personal, man. We shouldn't be talking about that live.
I'm not talking dirty. You are.
That's too much fun. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
He was talking about Yaitzi. No, he was. I was talking about that little tiny stone, and he was talking. He made a joke about his Yaitzi.
I thought he was talking about his kidney stone.
I didn't know he had a kidney stone. You have a kidney stone?
Yeah, I've had kidney stones in the past. I don't think that one would make it into this collection, though. That's not a story I want to relive, I'm telling you. It's a tiny mushroom. Yes, exactly, Stuart. All right. Well, hey, folks, I appreciate you all for being here. Tiger, thanks for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for asking the question. I think it was a great topic. And again, if you guys want to know more about this, reach out, comment down below. And if you haven't already, subscribe, and we'll catch you later. All right, folks. Be well, be blessed, and we'll see you later.
Thanks.